I always liked, that line, impossible is an opinion. Was that the
Oh,
line? I always liked that, so I would use that, actually, because there's nothing impossible. It's just an
impossible is
opinion,
a
it's, you just have to, use the right tools, and have, right people around you. And that will get that, that will help you get that job done.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Leaders in Tech. I am your host, David Mancella. As everybody knows, this podcast is being open to shine the light on leaders in technology that are really pushing the envelope in making this world a better place. And today we have with us Ahad. Brother, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, David. Truly honored to be here today on your podcast, Leaders in Tech, sharing my journey with you. So thanks a lot for having me.
Wonderful. Ahad, for the audience, can you give me your full name? Where do you live? And where are you working at right now? What's your position?
Yeah, so my full name is Ahad Bhatti. I live in DC metropolitan area, and currently I'm working at C-SPAN as a chief technology officer. So yeah, it's basically mainly, if those who don't know about the C-SPAN, although it's kind of a well-known name in the media industry, it's basically a media channel which is basically based out of Washington D.C., and we cover the political landscape of Washington D.C.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I remember everybody that had cable must have had C-SPAN. That
Yeah,
is the channel where they broadcast all the
yeah,
Congress and everything that happens with politics, right?
that is correct. Yeah,
Is C-SPAN owned by the government or is a private entity?
it's a non-profit.
It's a non-profit.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Now, how does a person come to become the top leader in technology for such an important organization?
How come? Well, I've been in the media industry for a while now, so that is basically probably the reason. I end up at C-SPAN. So yeah, it's been around 20 years, more than 20 years, in this industry, and I've worked in several media organizations. I've collected experience in different, I would say, cultures. Mm-hmm. And combine all of that, in one place as CTO, and that place is C-SPAN.
That is beautiful. Let's take a flight back in time. Where were you when you were finishing high school, and what was your hopes and dreams back then?
Well, yeah, that's kind of a long time back. So before I talk about that, I want to tell you that I've been I always thought of myself as a creator. So when I was a kid, in fifth or sixth grade, I was just I used to draw, I used to write, anything which basically you can call creation, or in terms of arts, or in that area. So I used to do a lot of that, and also I used to take all the opportunities, where there's a stage, and I perform, so that kind of, I would say, passion was somewhere there, so what happened, that around, I think that I was probably in 10th grade, my brother, who actually apparently better in studies, than me, got a gift from one of our relatives, it was basically that Commodore 64 kind of computer, right? It's just one computer, and there was no disk, there was nothing connected to that, it was audio cassettes. You have to put audio cassettes in, and you load the program. And that's basically kind of a time-consuming thing. Sometimes it takes 10 to 15 minutes, to load a game, in that computer. But there was something like, which was basically, preloaded in that computer, which is kind of, it's a the basic, the programming language basic, the compiler of that, so I started, programming at that time, when I said I don't have time to really, wait for 10, 20 minutes to load a game. So there was a bug, and I started reading it and I started programming. So by the time I finished high school, I was not aware of, like, that there is a degree, for computer science or anything like that. But in my head, I made up my mind, that I'm gonna go do something, with the computers, because that's one place, where I can combine, the computer, the technology, and that the creator, that thing, like, which was in me, So yes,
Yes.
by the time, when I finished my high school, I was already, I already made up my mind, that I'm gonna go into the somewhere
Yeah,
in
it's beautiful
technology.
because
Yeah.
what you're saying is beautiful. I was just talking about it yesterday with Joseph. He was responsible for bringing the first Google Home, the Google Home AI computers where you talk to the speaker and the speaker talks
Yeah.
back to you. And we came to the realization, number one. So I'm a man of faith. I believe in the Lord, and the Bible says that we are built on God's image, and God is a creator.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that because most people that fall in love with computer science, like you and I, we have this passion for creation. For me, my dad bought an Apple IIe when I was 14 years old. And he said, you're not allowed to touch it.
Right.
But he made sure that I knew where he hid the key.
Mm-hmm.
So that when he was gone, I would go take the key and, play with the computer.
Yeah.
And then my next computer, it wasn't me, but I went to a computer science school, and they had a computer lab with Commodore 64s.
Yeah. Right.
And I remember when I started playing with a software called Logo, where you could start building stuff and you could make it speak. Even back then in the 80s,
Yeah.
I was just amazed with the stuff that you could create by yourself. It was a creation, beautiful
Yeah.
universe. Right?
Yeah. So yeah, that's the thing, now that this word, that content creator, it's kind of a relatively new, but those who are basically in this field, they know, that the sense, behind, the accomplishment, after creating a program, or, reducing, a program which is like 30,000 line. I remember, like, when I used to work in Kabul, which was like kind of a language from, ancient language, So it was like, if you have a problem, like, in the first line, that will basically create, that compiler will create, 30,000 errors, for you. So the accomplishment, after debugging all of that, which I did a lot, during 90s, like late 90s, when Y2K bug was like kind of a thing. So,
Yeah.
at that time, it's just basically the sense, the feel, the feeling is just as same as, like, when you write a poetry, or a story, or draw something, So it's basically, I think, that the same kind of feeling. I at least, felt it in that way, that I feel in the same way that, yeah.
It's the feeling of accomplishment, isn't it?
That's
And it's
correct.
because it is very hard.
Yeah.
And I think still it's hard. It's just more complex now, and it's a lot easier to write code these days and to create something with all these advanced compilers and AI and all this. But despite the fact that it became easier to write code, the complexity got elevated. So it's still pretty hard.
Yeah.
And that's why good engineers and architects get paid so much.
Yeah.
Right?
That's the thing. People are always talking about generative AI, and that will basically take away the jobs and all that kind of, and all this stuff. And listen, this is not the first time we are talking about that. I remember, there was a time when there was a color engineer, in the field, and his job is just to make sure that the colors are getting, or the camera can look at the colors like correctly. What happened now to that job? There are so many things, like, people talk about, in the industry, which was before the cars, the horse and the cart, that was a complete industry, in 10 years, 15 years, that's gone, but what happened, the jobs got shifted,
Yeah.
they are. So, and there's always room for talent, there is, So the AI can write a code for you, I mean, definitely it can write, I mean, but you need someone to vet it. You need someone to really go through that and make sure, I mean, that it is what you're looking for.
Yeah, and also we go back to the creator, right? You have to tell the machine what you wanted to create, and then you have to
Exactly.
supervise the creation.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the way that we're building software might be getting automated, but we still have to have the thinking, the leadership, and the ability to tell the machine what do you want and which way, how you want it done, right?
Yeah, here is a very, I mean, interesting point. It's like convergence. I mean, that's where we are right now, right? I mean, we went through a cycle of convergence just a few days back. I mean, where the GPS and the phone and I mean, all those technologies like got I mean, combined. I mean, and created something for I mean the ordinary or like I mean the I mean the person like I mean who basically doesn't know anything about the GPS or the computers. Now there's another point or the milestone like where generative AI or I mean machine learning will I mean it will converge I mean with the technology leaders or the people who own the technology and create something new. Eventually, I mean it's all like it will start like I mean mixing together and create new products.
What was your first professional job in the computer field?
As I said, like during late 90s, I was right after my college, I mean, right after I finished my BCS, like Bachelor's in Computer Science, I started working on things like, so the place where I was studying Kabul, actually, they also have like a small software house. So I used to spend time over there. I mean, they had, I mean, so many projects from US, I mean, where and around the world actually. Um, and the most of the things were like to debug, the programs. So that was my first job. It was not like 9 to 5 kind of job. I mean, I used to go there and stay sometimes like 16 hours, 17 hours, I mean,
Yeah.
over there just to learn, I mean, and do, I mean, it was very exciting time actually, when you have that energy, you go
Yes.
in there, I mean, you want to work. So sometimes I spend like 16 hours over there, I mean, just, I mean, get home to get some sleep, I mean, and then after that, and go back over there. So I would say that was my first job.
That's another thing that we have in common. I mean, if you're really passionate about what you do, you don't care about working the long
That's
hours.
right. Yeah.
I remember I was working for a very large insurance company in Canada, and we had this hardcore deadline we couldn't miss, and it was a large project. So I just motivated my team to do whatever it takes to get it done. So we were running shifts, and I probably slept in the couch of the office probably 3-4 days in a row.
Yes.
Just sleeping in the couch, waking up again, like maybe in the middle of the night. Oh, I got the solution for this bug, and just typing
That's
it, but
right.
we made it.
Yeah.
And it was exciting, and nobody forced us to do it.
That's right.
It was just out of the desire of accomplishment.
Exactly.
Right?
It goes back to that, I mean, always. Yeah, I remember like, spending days, I mean, in that place. And I mean, it's just like one of those things which I think that, I mean, should be, I mean, everybody's supposed to have, especially the people who are getting out of college, I mean, right now, they should have, I mean, that commitment, I mean, the thing like, they want to do. And to be honest, as you said, I mean, if you're enjoying, I mean, what you're doing, you don't feel like, I mean, whether it is day or night or it's been 16 hours or 20 hours or 30 hours. I mean, I've done that 30 hours. I mean, I've done that in cold data center. I mean, there was a problem, I mean, and I was just there, I mean, you cannot go home and sleep, I mean, while that thing is still there, I mean, so it was like straight 30 hours. And so as my team was there as well, I mean, so yeah, we all done that, I believe so.
Yeah, that's one of the things I remember. One of those crises, we were all working to fix a big problem with a database in another job. And one of my first lessons in leadership was that the CIO of the company, the top guy, it was a 2,000-person company. He came down, he knew we were working overnight, and he came down with dinner for us.
Yeah.
And he said, I cannot help you technically, but I'm going to be here helping you morally. And he fed us, and we created this, we grabbed this huge boardroom and we made it the war room. And this thing had like whiteboards and paper, and
Yeah.
everybody was with
Yeah.
laptops, like 20 guys working there
Yeah.
24/7 until we figured it out. And we became the heroes of the company after that,
That's right. That's right. That's the kind of a leadership, when you need, actually, when you are working. And it's just, that's what I've learned when I was basically, in this career, new in this career. And that's what I continued, throughout my career, just be a very, democratic, be a leader, not a manager, just work with. So, I am at heart, I'm still an engineer, right? Because I started as an engineer. So, I can connect to the people, who are working, and that actually, I use that, in my advantage, and the company's advantage, because, in that way, you can connect with everyone, and when you have a problem, like you mentioned, war room, war room is a perfect example, everybody's equal, that you don't have managers, you don't have CTOs or CIOs or anything. The war room is war room. Everybody is there, making decisions, and everybody has like collective goal, it's kind of a collective thing, for everyone. So yeah, that is, and I think that, I've seen more in technology. This kind of things, like, I've seen a lot, in technology industry. And the places, where I don't want to basically downplay everyone, but other places, or other industries are missing, that kind of that kind of environment.
Yeah, and you know what it is? I think it's the fact that it's so difficult. Our careers are so difficult, but at the same time, it gives you that space for creativity and collaboration. One of the things that amazed me is that, I remember, like, I went to two computer science schools. The second was in Canada when I moved to Canada, and when I graduated in 1995, object-oriented programming was just beginning to become something. So all that I was taught in school was still mainframe programming and microcomputer programming with text-based operating systems. And then so I came back to college and started learning object-oriented programming with Visual Basic, Delphi. It was back when Visual C++.
Delphi, I remember that.
But then when I actually started to apply that on my job as a developer, I had a lot of questions that nobody could answer, the people that I knew. But I remember that we had something called news groups. Yeah. And you would post a question and somebody will actually answer. And, most of my learning from object-oriented programming was from guys in India, guys in the USA, guys in Europe, guys in South America. And I'm like, I cannot believe these people are helping me for free. And then it gave me the desire to help them back. So when somebody had a question, I will answer them. Yeah. If I knew the answer, how to fix a bug or how to create a new class or whatever the problem was, right?
That's the thing. One of my mentors actually told me, this is one of the things, like he said, you have to remember that if you give something, if you teach someone something, that will leave a space in you and some information, which is, for the new information, for the new knowledge. So if you're going to keep it with you, you're not basically making room for the new material, give it to someone, and I thought, like, that is just like, big words, but you know what, you talk to people. I have seen that. I have basically experienced that when I am talking to anyone, like in my team, as in, I'm no matter, like, who you're talking, doesn't matter, engineer or network engineer or system. When you're talking to them, when you're starting kind of exchange, and the thing is, they always something for you to give, and when they see, people see that you're opening up, you're talking about your experiences, you're talking about the stuff, like, and you want to share, they actually give that back to you right away. And that is basically, that also, like, creates better teams, and I think that I know that right away, like, that okay, now I'm actually increasing my knowledge, rather than just giving it away and opening. So yeah, it just came into my mind, when you're talking about that, about the bulletin boards, and those and MRIC channels, and all that,
Yeah, we go way back when, right?
Yeah, right.
I had though that's the fine definition of the culture of the tech industry, and that's one of the reasons why we have gone so far so fast. Because if you look at the evolution of technology, most of the stuff happened in the last 50 years,
Yeah, that's
and
correct.
it's revolutionized how we operate as humankind. Like
Hmm.
everything is run by technology nowadays, absolutely everything. And it's because this collaboration among people that they don't even care, like where do you work or what color of skin you are, whether you're a male or female, that doesn't matter. What
That
matters
doesn't
is the
matter.
collaboration to build something together. It's a
What are you bringing
beautiful
to the,
thing,
yeah, that at
right?
all at the end, like, what you're bringing to the table. And there is basically kind of a sense of community, I mean, in that. Still, I mean, from the day one, as you said, we have seen that. And even right now, you look at the YouTube, I mean, a person, even if they know, like, I mean, how to create a macro in Excel, I mean, he will create, I mean, a video, I mean, and it's not even monetized, I mean. So you can see, that that community is basically, the tech community is basically, from the day one, they are basically believe in sharing. And
Yeah.
I mean, that kind of I mean, behavior, or I mean, it's still there. We are
Is
still
that
doing that.
collaboration for a greater good. And again, I go back to my faith, right? Like we're behaving like our fathers, the one that who made us, like collaboration for a greater good, like being able to share unconditionally.
Yeah.
Because what am I going to gain for me to teach somebody across the world how to fix a bug? I have nothing to gain from it out
Yeah.
of the satisfaction that I was able to help a brother or a
Yeah,
sister, right?
that's right. That is correct.
That sense of community, that sense of building something for so that everybody gets better. It's beautiful. Ahad, when did you get your first job as a leader, and how did you get into the industry, into the media industry?
Yeah, so I mean, I was basically, as I said, like, I mean, I was a programmer, right? I started as a programmer, but then, I mean, there was a lot of Y2K related projects, I mean, I've done those projects. But then, I mean, uh, either, I mean, that company like closed. I mean, I mean, I was working with one of the, I mean, big software houses, I mean, and for some reason, like, stopped getting projects into programming, So I needed to do something, I mean, at that time, there was something for Microsoft, and it was MCSC, I mean. So I said, all right, let's do that, I mean, let's see, find out what is that. I was already having experience in Unix, because I was coming from that background. I just converted that into Microsoft, that experience into Microsoft. And I mean, then I got another job, I mean, as a system administrator, I'm a system engineer. So I started working, I'm a system engineer. And then the company where I was working, it was basically a school, it was a big university. And they wanted to do a project, and I mean, the goal of the project was to convert like around 30,000 hours worth of material. It was all video. They want to convert that. They want to digitize that. I mean, so it's searchable, and I mean, it has I mean, that element. But because I mean, the problem was all of that material was on either on the Betacams or VHSs and all that, and they first of all, like, when you use them a lot, when they go through degradation, plus, like, there's a chance, like, people will, I mean, and they will lose it somewhere. I mean, they will I mean, misplace it, so just to avoid that, they want to digitize everything. And they said, oh, we'll rent out, I mean, the digital copy, and not like the physical copy. And that was my first project in the media, without knowing that I'm getting into that, and so
Into media.
yeah, into media, so I started, like, I mean, there was a huge, like, I mean, group. We started, like, digitizing everything. Now we have all the material, in MPEG format. But I mean, the searching was, like, very hard, I mean, how to search that, I mean. So we have created our own database, I mean, we wrote some codes, I mean, to just create an indexer, I mean, for those, it's kind of a cataloger, I mean, for those video files. And without knowing, I mean, that what we are doing, we created a media asset management system. Here's a classification for that. And that was basically, I mean, the first step, I mean, in that. So then my boss, I mean, who actually resigned from that job, I mean, he moved to to a TV channel, and then he called me from then. Hey, listen, we're starting this new department, this TV channel. And I mean, it is basically a combination of broadcast, which is traditional, thing, and we want to basically modernize that in a way that, we add computers in there. So the department is going to be called broadcast IT. Do you want to join our team? I said, all right, let's check that out. So I joined their team, and that's where, I came to know about this whole video servers, the huge media storages, media, asset management, archives, all that kind of stuff. So that was my first job, back in 2005.
Wow.
Yeah, I think before that, so I was working in media before that. As I told you, that with the MAM, our own homebrewed MAM. But the officially, the official job, first job in media industry was in 2005.
That's another beautiful thing about IT, right? Like the technology is very similar abroad, but there is so many specific industries, right? Like, for example, a CTO for a healthcare organization will deal with different things that will somebody that is a CTO for a media organization, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to deal with media servers and stuff like that. And then
Yeah.
when you're on the other side, you have to deal
Yeah.
with, clinical medical records and
Yeah.
compliance government regulations and stuff like
Yeah.
that it doesn't exist in the other world.
That's right. The baseline is the same. All of us, we use databases. All of us, we use storages, hypervisors. We all use the same network switches. But the application of that, is basically different. So yeah, that's where the things got different. So yeah, to answer your question about the the leadership role, so that was my first step in the media industry. And within 2-3 years, I got the promotion, and I became like the group. We used to do support for the news channel, and first I become, they actually appointed me as a supervisor of that group. Then I became, the manager of, the network, and that was basically, when it all happened, like and I think that probably 7 to 8 years a time span, that become like, yeah.
What do you think your boss's thinking was to promote you out of the whole group? Like, what did he see in you that saw that you had leadership material?
So as I said, that I was basically engineer, from Ahad, I wanted to work with, roll up my sleeves, get under the table and put the cables in.
And that's
so I
how to
like
play.
that, yeah.
Right?
So yeah, that's basically the thing, and one thing I would say, even at that time, this communication, I always try to avoid the friction, so if there is a person who is basically creating friction or anything, because all of us, when we are, so here's one thing about engineers, any techie, actually, we always want Ferraris, that is basically the thing, even if you want to get grocery, from in the next door, from from the next block, we want Ferraris, to go. The thing what I'm trying to say is, like, even to do a simplest job, we want to get the best of the breed, we want to get the best technology, to do that. So, and that actually creates a lot of friction, in any group, because everybody has their own way of thinking, and they think like, the way they're thinking is probably, the best or the only way to do that. And that's basically where we have, our technology group, it's good about, sharing something which is, usually that we think like, our solution is probably the best solution. That's probably the con of our industry. So yeah, so for me, it was basically always, just to avoid friction, not avoid friction, fix the friction, in the group, that is basically my problem. And that's where my democratic way of managing, can come in, it's basically, I draw, whiteboard is always our friend, you start drawing something on the whiteboard, and then you start people to, pitching the ideas, and that's where, they start feeling the ownership. before, I mean, if you ask them individually, I mean, they give you the idea. They said, all right, this is the way to do that. And, I mean, they will just, I mean, stick to that. I mean, they don't want to change, I mean, but if you bring all of them, in a boardroom and start drawing, I mean, start putting things like in the whiteboard, now they'll start like throwing ideas, I mean, in this way, I mean, everybody's like, I mean, voice is heard, I mean, and it's getting on the whiteboard, I mean, so that was probably, I mean, the reason why, I mean, at that time, my director actually thought of like, I mean, putting me in charge of like that group, because in that group it was like around 10 guys, I mean, it was not basically everybody was experienced, seasoned engineers, I mean, they probably have 10-20 years experience more than me, and I mean, it's just like they are very seasoned, I mean, coming from traditional broadcast environment. So to convey your message to them, or to get their message across was always difficult. So and the real, I mean, the way like, I mean, I conducted that whole, I mean, thing, I mean, was through whiteboards and, I mean, getting everyone's ideas. And I think that was basically noticed by, I mean, my managers, and they gave me that role. And after that, I mean, I've just continued to do that. It's and that's why, I mean, they probably promoted me, I mean, as a network manager.
It's beautiful because you had these basic skills in you that you didn't know you had. From friction, you created a collaboration by just getting people together in a room. And that's what a leader does, right? Mm-hmm. It inspires people to behave a certain way, to take the best out of people, and to make sure that those people are being taken care of in terms of their voices are heard. Not necessarily that we're going to do what they want, but their voices are heard so that together you put to a better solution. And that's true leadership. Mm-hmm. And that alone will separate you from the rest of the programmers that didn't want to take that step. And that's okay, right? A lot of people just want to be on the keyboard, show me what I have to do, and I'll get it done. And I'm the best at doing that. Yeah. But if you don't have these leaders that put everybody together to have the best outcome in the right time, nothing works.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, that all of those were like great engineers, I mean, but and everyone's idea were like, I mean, great. But it's the collaboration, like, which actually create the greater product, I mean. So, yeah, 100% agree with you.
Did you grow up in the States with your career, or you come from another country?
No, so I actually I'm originally from Pakistan. So Pakistan. Again, I mean, I actually grew up, I mean, I don't know, I mean, if you've heard of Karachi, it's a southern city, I mean, it's a beach town, I mean, so I grew up over there. But then I mean, when I was in probably late, early 20s, I mean, I moved to UAE, Dubai. I worked there. And then from there, I went to Qatar, which is like next door, to Dubai. Worked there and then from there, I actually moved to US. So it's basically quite a journey. I mean, so yeah.
And they're very hot countries. I mean,
yes, they are.
My sister was there for 10 years in Qatar. She was hired to build the psychology department for this university. And she said it was so hot in the summer that nobody could stay there. They would just fly out.
It's just literally, it's impossible, to walk a mile, during day, that weather. It's just too hot, it's like, I mean, in Celsius way, it crosses like 50, 52, 53 in Celsius, and so you can imagine, like, so 110 Fahrenheit, and so
you could probably fry eggs on top of
yes, I mean, actually people have done that, I mean, they bake cookies, I mean, in their cars, parking cars, I mean, in the open, I mean, and bake cookies in there,
So. Incredible. And how was your experience in Dubai? I've never been, and it's one of the places where I really want to go.
That's great. I mean, it's a good I would say, I mean, as we call US as a melting pot, I mean, everybody's here, I mean, from different cultures. You just take that, I mean, on a smaller scale and, put it in the Middle East, I mean, so it's something similar. They do have their own cultures, I mean, which is basically sometimes supersede, I mean, most of the things over there. But it's a nice place, I mean, to be. You will find everything in a very close proximity. I mean, you don't have to go, to the other city. For example, I mean, I'm in the East Coast right now, I mean, and we have West Coast. I mean, I need like 5 hours flight, I mean, to just get to the West Coast, right? So in contrast, I mean, over there, I mean, you'll find everything, I mean, in a very, I mean, it's probably, I mean, an hour drive, and that hour is basically because the traffic is really bad over there. I mean, otherwise you can get there in half an hour. But yeah, it's a great place to be. Um, uh, Great culture, lovely people. I mean, and they want you to contribute. I mean, that's basically the thing. The environment over there is basically, I mean, everybody is there to, I mean, to actually contribute, I mean, to the betterment of that society.
And to prosper, right? Like it's
Yeah, prosper.
amazing if you see Dubai how it got created. It was a desert before,
Oh
and
yes,
so
oh yes,
quickly it became this modern city. And now they desalinate water. Like
oh
talk
yeah.
about modern technologies. Go to Dubai.
Amazing, amazing. So that's the thing, when I first arrived in Dubai, I mean, that was 1999, and it was basically, I mean, the terminal was so small that there was no place. I mean, the airport terminal was very small, and there was like buses between the aircraft and the terminal building. I mean, but now if you look at it, amazing. I mean, you look at their airport. I mean, it's just it's as if like, I mean, something from, I mean, from the future. I mean, so that's basically, I mean, they definitely have like, I mean, done a great job. I mean, changing like the whole thing, the whole scene over there.
That's amazing. When you came to the States, where was your first top leadership position? Where were you?
I was in the same TV channel where I was working in Doha. So I mean, I was moved here and they offered me a job, I mean, in Washington, D.C. So I was IT manager, I mean, at that time. Yeah, so I was just, from technology standpoint, I was leading a small group of engineers, I mean, in Washington, D.C.
That's beautiful, and that's when you got the opportunity to be at C-SPAN.
Yeah, I mean, I moved I moved from there to some system integrators. I mean, I worked there like, I mean, for a while. Then I worked, I mean, for a few months. I mean, in health industry as well. By the way, they were actually, because, I mean, now health is, I mean, they have some equipment like, which is basically conventionally like, I mean, you used to be, I mean, the media equipment. I mean, so I worked, I mean, in that industry for so few months as an enterprise architect, because that's also like, something like, which I really love to work. I mean, I enjoy that kind of work. But then from there, I moved to C-SPAN.
That's beautiful. I had, 40 minutes went by so fast,
Oh,
and
it is. What even?
I don't want to abuse your time. Thank you so much for giving me your
No,
time.
thank you very much for this opportunity. And yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, the 40 minutes were like gone. I just realized that it's been 40 minutes. So it was great. It was very interesting, I mean, talking to you. And thanks a lot again, like, I mean, for having me on your podcast.
Let me ask you one last question before we
Okay.
finish the podcast.
Okay.
If you had access to a billboard that was in front of the busiest highway on earth, what would you write in it?
Impossible is an opinion. Was that the line? I mean, I always like that, I mean, so I would use that, I mean, actually, because there's nothing impossible. It's just an opinion, I mean, it's, you just have to, I mean, use the right tools, I mean, and have, I mean, right people around you. And that will get that, I mean, that will help you get that job done.
And you know what? You're right. John F. Kennedy, when he made his speech, when he declared that we were going to the moon, everybody got together behind that idea. That's the greatest leadership thinking. The impossible is an opinion, and you're right. If you have the right idea and you bring the right people and you lead the people towards the goal, eventually you will make it happen.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
That's right. That's the thing. You have to have right people around you. That's very important. I mean, there is nothing that it's a myth, I mean, that there is a successful man. I mean, I am here because a lot of people around me, there were good people around me. There were people who actually supported me. I mean, that's why I'm here. So you have to have right people around you. So have smart people around you. And, I mean, that's the thing, I mean, just have that passion, I mean, just to go after, the thing like you want to achieve. And then it's just an opinion. I mean, if somebody's saying that it's impossible, that's their opinion. That's not the fact, Yeah.
Ahad, thank you so much for your time. If
Thank
people
you.
would like to get in touch with you or follow you, where can they find you online?
I am on LinkedIn, so I will share my link with you. And also like him on Twitter. I'm on Twitter as well. Oh, I'm sorry, X.
Excellent. Yes.
Yes.
Fantastic. Ahad, thank you so much for your time. God
Thanks,
bless you,
David.
brother. And please
Great.
keep making this world a better place.
Great. Thank you very much. Bye.
Cheers.
So it's done. David, so there are a couple of things, I want to talk about,
Thank you for tuning in to the Leaders in Tech podcast. Check in next week to keep learning how to use technology and leadership to change the game. See you next time.